Welcome to my first ever unboxing video. I just received the new Kingmaker game from Gibson's, and it's a very big box. Here is the traditional Avalon Hill version. You can see the Gibson version is much bigger. So without actually looking at it beforehand, I want to compare the maps, first of all, between the two versions. And then we'll go to the rule book at some point. You can see there's several different versions of the game in the new Gibson set. And this is the map. So what you're looking at there is the classic map. I know some later versions of this game from Avalon Hill had the map folded up in one piece. This actually, as you can see, came as two pieces. And the classic Kingmaker map, as you will see in a moment, is much bigger. As you might expect, given the size of the boxes. That is quite a difference in size. One thing I immediately notice, and I will bring this up close to the camera, is in the original game, the rules were not all that clear, nor was the map. Here you can see, for example, Pevensey, as was later revealed in the General magazine, is supposed to be a port on this coast. The anchor, however, was on this coast. So I had drawn in with a little ballpoint pen where it really should be. And you can see on the new Gibson's map, it's in the proper place. Well, the anchor's in the same place, but they redrew the line for the C square to make it much clearer. Another thing that's clearer from the first version, you never really were sure what exactly London was, because it had the rivers that were hatched, and it might have been hatched also with the cathedral cross there, and there was a bit of white there that wasn't really clear, and the letters covered up the Thames estuary, so it wasn't really clear where the river was and whether you could cross from here to here, or if this was the same as this, or whatnot. And on the new map, we can see that's much clearer. You can see where the roads are, you can see where the estuary starts, and you can actually count within 3 squares of London fairly accurately. Another issue that you might not have known if you didn't read the General or follow the hobby was that Shrewsbury was supposed to control this fork in the road, although it didn't really look that way on the map. You can see on the new map that it absolutely represents that now. I notice also there are fewer unfortified towns on the map. For example, here in the original map, there's Ecclesall, or Eccleshall. I'm sorry, my British English is generally decent, but I have no idea how you say that. That's not even on the new classic map. The reason for that is because those open towns, unfortified towns, sorry, are useless. They have no value whatsoever except for summoning kings and nobles to those locations. I guess Eccleshall was not used in the original game. I don't recall off the top of my head whether it was or wasn't. And that's probably why it wasn't put in this. Another change you can see is the original game's open towns were indicated by a black gate, whereas your standard towns had a portcullis in them. That's been replaced in the new board with a little surrender flag. You can see that indicates that it's an open town. Another difference is that Dublin previously was not actually on the map if you played with Ireland in the extended rules. Now there is Ireland and the city of Dublin. Overall, it's a nice improvement, very nice improvement. Another change that you can see is that the Clifford family has an accurate coat of arms. This was the old coat of arms of Clifford, and it has been replaced by a more historically accurate coat of arms that looks like that. And I noticed also some of the castle names have changed. The Clifford Castle is now called South Wingfield. Previously, it was Conisboro, and actually the location has changed somewhat. Similarly, this castle, this Hastings Castle, used to be Tutbury. And now it's Ashby. And it's very clear that it doesn't block the road, which was not all that clear in the first. The older, not actually first, but the Avalon Hill version of the game. So that's a nice change. Now, there are some rules that I found absolutely incomprehensible in the original version of the games, and I want to see if those changed. In particular, I don't know if you can read this, but I always played with dice rolls rather than drawing cards for nobles killed. And it was never really clear to me what would happen in some of these cases. On especially the loyalty table, titled nobles and crowned royal heirs killed by or executed by battle, siege, town fighting, or ambush. Dice results 2 through 7, disposition, noble returns to the former faction, crowned royal heir remains in the same square, but the crowned royal heir was killed or executed. So I'm not really sure what that was supposed to mean. But let's see what the classic rules have for that. Again, I have not looked at this in advance. I don't even know where the advanced game rules would be. Oh, maybe it's in these extended classic rules. Being renamed. Okay. So we can see here, in this set of rules, the crowned royal heir is no longer mentioned in the loyalty table. So that little confusing bit of rule has been cleared up. And that was really that, and the Plantagenet cards are the rules for deaths of those are clarified as well. If the noble with the card dies or the associated royal piece is allocated to a different noble, the card goes to the owning player's hand. That player may keep the card in hand or immediately award it to another noble in the faction who has control of the royal piece. The faction can have only one of these cards in play at any time. Okay, so it looks like these are not nobles. The way they were in the first version of the game, where you could play them as any other noble and give them offices and give them other stuff. And we can see here the counters. Just let me be clear. There are no Plantagenet counters in this game. So they're basically mercenary troops with the added bonus of owning some castles, it appears. So in the original game, you could give them offices, you could give them their own troops, their own ships. So that's a big change. And that solves the older mystery about what happens when one of those Plantagenet nobles would get killed. That wasn't clear. So it looks like a lot of thought went into this, and I will wrap this up and maybe create a new video, maybe not. I'm so far very, very pleased with my Kickstarter purchase, and you should look forward to getting this if you're a fan of the game.